It was just another night at the Chandelier, a high-end restaurant tucked away in a quiet corner of Los Angeles. The kind of place where you could easily spot a Hollywood star or a tech mogul dining in the corner, but the staff treated everyone with the same level of professionalism. The dim lighting, the soft hum of conversations, and the clinking of fine glassware gave the restaurant an air of sophistication. People came here not just for the food, but for the experience, the escape from the hustle and bustle of the city. Jenna, a young waitress with a bright smile and a tired look in her eyes, walked through the busy dining room, carrying a tray of appetizers. She balanced the tray effortlessly, even though the weight of her personal life seemed to grow heavier with each passing day. Tonight, like so many nights before, was a blur of orders and pleasantries. She kept her head down, her thoughts occupied, with the pressing family situation she was dealing with, an emergency that needed her attention, but the bills didn't stop coming, and neither did her shifts at the Chandelier. As she entered the back kitchen to refill her tray, a buzz rippled through the front of the restaurant. It was subtle at first, a few raised eyebrows, some hushed whispers, but it quickly grew louder. People were looking toward the front entrance, craning their necks in a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Jenna froze, her hand still gripping the edge of the kitchen counter as she heard the words being passed around. "He's here. Elon Musk. He just walked in." Her heart skipped a beat. Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla, SpaceX, and a dozen other ventures that had reshaped the world. As they knew it. What was he doing here of all places? Jenna didn't have time to process the shock. She quickly pushed past the sudden surge of excitement and grabbed her tray, walking back into the dining room. It was then that she saw him, sitting quietly at a corner table, an aura of calm surrounding him as a waiter brought him a menu. He didn't stand out as much as people might have expected. Sure, he was wearing a simple jacket and jeans, his signature look, but there was something about his presence that drew people in without him even trying. He was just there. As Jenna made her way toward his table, she couldn't help but feel a strange mix of awe and discomfort. After all, the man who had changed the world with his ideas and companies was now sitting in front of her, ordering a meal like any other person. "Hi, my name is Jenna, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Can I get you something to drink?" "To start?" she asked, her voice slightly shaking despite her best efforts to remain composed. Elon looked up at her, his eyes lighting up with a quiet curiosity. "I'll have a glass of red wine, please," he said, his voice soft but direct. He smiled, and for a moment, Jenna thought she saw something beyond the billionaire persona, the human being underneath it all. As she walked away to get his drink, the restaurant buzzed with excitement. The staff was whispering among themselves, and the patrons couldn't help but glance toward the corner where Elon Musk was now seated. But Jenna tried her best to focus. She had a job to do. By the time she returned with his wine, she could see that Elon was looking out the window, lost, in thought. He didn't seem to mind the attention, or maybe he was used to it, but Jenna couldn't help but feel an odd connection. She wondered what it was like to be someone who had achieved so much, to be constantly in the spotlight. "Here you go," she said, setting the glass of wine down in front of him. "Is there anything else I can get you?" Elon gave her a small nod and looked up. "Actually, I think I'm good for now, but if you don't mind me asking, how's your night going? You seem distracted." Jenna blinked, surprised by the question. Was he asking about her night? The billionaire sitting at the corner table was asking her how her night was going. It was strange, almost surreal. I'm just working. Through the usual, you know." "Busy night," she said, trying to brush it off. But then she hesitated. It wasn't often that someone like him showed any interest in her. "Actually, it's been a little tough, if I'm being honest." Elon raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Tough? In what way?" Jenna hesitated. Was she really about to share her personal life with Elon Musk? He was a stranger to her, but something about his presence, his quiet demeanor, made her feel like he might actually listen. "It's just, life's a little complicated right now. My family's going through some stuff. And I'm working. 2 jobs just to keep everything afloat," she said softly, trying not to sound like she was complaining. "It's hard, but you just keep pushing through, right?" Elon nodded thoughtfully, then took a sip of his wine. I get it. Life doesn't exactly make things easy, does it? Jenna laughed lightly. No, not at all. For a moment there was a silence between them. The noise of the restaurant faded into the background, and Jenna realized that despite his fame and fortune, Elon Musk was just another person who had his own struggles. They were worlds apart, in terms of wealth and success, but in that moment, they were two people sharing an honest exchange about life. It was then that Jenna began to wonder, what was this billionaire really like? And why, of all places, was he here in this little restaurant in the middle of a busy night? As Jenna walked away to check on her other tables, she couldn't shake the feeling that tonight was going to be different. This wasn't just another celebrity sighting. This was a turning point for both her and Elon. As the night progressed, the energy in the restaurant only grew more palpable. Elon sat at his table, mostly to himself, but every so often he exchanged a few words with the staff or another diner who couldn't resist the urge to approach him. Jenna, though, had to keep her focus on her job. She moved between tables, trying her best to keep up with the flow of orders and requests, but her mind kept drifting back to the conversation she'd had with Elon. Despite the hectic pace of the evening, a strange calm settled over her. Something about that brief exchange made her feel like she wasn't just serving food and drinks to the wealthiest people in the room. She was part of something larger, something she couldn't quite name, but she pushed the thought away. She had a job to do. As she moved to clear a nearby table, she overheard a conversation at the bar. Two men wearing expensive suits and sipping on aged whiskey were deep in discussion. Jenna, despite herself, caught snippets of their words. "I can't believe Musk is here," one of them said, his voice low but eager. "What do you think he's really up to?" The other man, wearing a pair of designer glasses, shook his head. "It's got to be about SpaceX. You know how he loves to be seen, always on the cutting edge. You think this place is big enough for him?" Jenna didn't need to hear any more. It was obvious. Elon Musk had never been just a businessman. He was a magnet for attention, controversy, and intrigue. Everyone wanted to know what he was doing at the Chandelier. Was he scouting for talent? Looking for a quiet moment away from the public eye? Or was this just a random night, one of many in a life that was anything but ordinary? But the tension wasn't just from the patrons. In the back, the staff was buzzing too. Jenna overheard a few whispers from her co-workers as they exchanged glances when her shift came up again. "Isn't that the guy from Tesla?" one of her colleagues asked. "Yeah, he's the one who keeps sending rockets into space. Pretty wild, huh?" another added, obviously thrilled by the celebrity presence. As the evening wore on, Jenna found herself stealing glances at Elon. His table remained mostly undisturbed, except for an occasional brief interaction. And then she caught sight of something that piqued her curiosity even more. Elon was scribbling something down on a napkin. It wasn't the kind of thing someone would do if they were just enjoying a meal. The idea that Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur, might be planning something right here in the middle of this seemingly ordinary restaurant sent a jolt through her. But before she could fully process the thought, her attention was pulled back to her responsibilities. She could see the chaos in the kitchen from the dining room. Orders were stacking up, and the energy had shifted. People were starting to get more impatient. Jenna took a deep breath, ready to dive back into the madness. She wasn't paid to think about Elon Musk's napkins, or the peculiar way he'd looked at her earlier. Yet even as she moved through the maze of tables, she felt something strange stirring inside her, an unease that had nothing to do with the pressure of work, but something more profound. A few minutes later, as Jenna was serving another table, she caught sight of a familiar face at the door. The same two men who had been whispering at the bar were now approaching Elon's table. Their strides were confident, purposeful. They were heading directly toward him, as if they had something important to discuss. She couldn't help but watch as the two men arrived at Elon's table. They spoke in hushed tones for a moment, before one of them, the one in the designer glasses, pointed toward the door. Elon sat back slightly, looking at the man before giving a subtle nod. It was clear they had something important to say. But what? Jenna's curiosity was piqued. There was something about the way Elon was reacting, so calm, almost too calm. She'd expected someone like him to be surrounded by even more people, perhaps caught up in a sea of excitement, but instead he seemed completely at ease, unaffected by the attention or the conversations surrounding him. The two men stood for a moment longer, exchanging a few more words with Elon, and then one of them handed him something, a folder. It was thick, and it looked like a contract. Jenna's eyes widened as she noticed the unmistakable logo at the top, the symbol of one of Elon's companies. What was going on? Before she could wonder any further, the men turned and walked back to the door, their conversation now finished. Elon remained seated, the folder now in his hands, but his face was unreadable. He hadn't made a move to open it yet, but the weight of the moment wasn't lost on anyone watching. Jenna walked back to her station, her mind racing. She had a feeling that what was happening wasn't just a random interaction. It felt like something important. Something big was happening in that small corner of the chandelier, and for the first time tonight, she realized she was part of it. But she had to focus. She had other tables to attend to. And the night wasn't over yet. The rest of the night seemed to pass in a blur for Jenna. The excitement around Elon's visit didn't die down, but the restaurant was a well-oiled machine. Staff members moved around with precision, greeting guests, serving food, and navigating the maze of tables. But even amidst the chaos, Jenna couldn't stop thinking about the earlier exchange. She found herself glancing over at Elon's table, more often than she would have liked. He was still sitting there, quietly observing the room, the thick folder now placed on the table in front of him. He wasn't talking to anyone, and aside from a few occasional glances toward the door, he seemed completely detached from the energy of the restaurant. Was he contemplating the future of his companies, or was he just trying to enjoy a quiet evening out? As the evening wore on, Jenna's shift continued, and the atmosphere of excitement around Elon seemed to intensify. It wasn't just the patrons whispering about him now. Even the staff had started to discuss his every move. A few even tried to subtly catch glimpses of the folder he had been handed. What was inside? Was it something groundbreaking? Or was it just another piece of business paperwork? Jenna didn't know, and frankly, she didn't care. She had her own worries, bills piling up, her mother's illness, and the pressure of working. 2 jobs just to make ends meet. Still, she couldn't deny that there was something magnetic about Elon. His quiet presence had a strange pull on her. As the night neared its end, she was walking past Elon's table when she noticed he was still, looking at the folder, his face expressionless. She was about to continue on her way when, unexpectedly, he spoke. "Hey, Jenna," he said, his voice calm but inviting. "Can I ask you something?" Jenna froze. She hadn't expected him to remember her name, let alone speak to her again. Sure," she said, trying to keep her cool. "What's up?" Elon gestured toward the seat across from him. "Would you mind sitting for a moment? I'd like to chat." It was one of those moments that felt surreal, almost too good to be true. Jenna looked around nervously, unsure if this was some kind of joke. She glanced at her co-workers, but no, one seemed to be paying attention. Swallowing her nerves, she walked to the table and pulled out the chair. She sat down, unsure what to say next. The conversation from earlier had been light, almost incidental. But now, it seemed like something more. "I hope I'm not keeping you from anything important," Elon said, his tone genuine. "I know you're busy, but I've been thinking about what you said earlier." Jenna blinked in surprise. "About what?" "About life being complicated," he said, his eyes meeting hers. "You mentioned your family was going through something, and you're working 2 jobs to support them. That kind of struggle, I know it well." Jenna wasn't sure if she should say anything more, but his words were unexpected. There was no trace of the typical billionaire arrogance or detachment she had assumed he would have. Instead, he sounded human. "You've been through a lot too, I guess," she replied, her voice a little softer now. "I mean, with everything you're doing, it must be tough, right?" Elon smiled slightly, his expression thoughtful. "You could say that, but that doesn't make the struggles any less real. They just change form. I have resources, sure, but that doesn't make life any easier. In fact, it sometimes makes it more complicated." There was an uncomfortable silence between them. Jenna had never thought of it like that before. She always assumed that wealth and success were the answer to everything. But hearing him speak so candidly about his own challenges made her pause. "I didn't expect that," she admitted. "I mean, I thought, I don't know, maybe you have it all figured out, like you've got everything under control." Elon chuckled lightly. I don't think anyone ever has it all figured out. If we did, life would be a lot less interesting. Jenna laughed, despite herself. She wasn't sure if he was being serious or just trying to put her at ease, but the tension in her shoulders eased slightly. This was definitely not the conversation she expected to be having with one of the richest men in the world. They sat in silence for a moment, both lost in their thoughts. Jenna found herself studying him in a way she hadn't before. His features, the way he carried himself. He was just a man like anyone else, yet the world saw him as something much bigger. So why the quiet night out? Jenna asked, breaking the silence. I mean, with everything you've got going on, what made you choose a place like this? Elon glanced around the restaurant, then back at her. Sometimes you just need a break, a normal night, away from the chaos of work and the spotlight. Just a simple meal, no fuss. It made sense in a way. Even the most successful people needed to recharge, to remind themselves of what it felt like to be just another person in the crowd, even for a little while. Yeah, I get that, Jenna said softly. I wish I could take a break like that. Sometimes. Then why don't you? Elon's eyes were curious, probing but not judgmental. Jenna hesitated. The words she had been avoiding all night now hung in the air between them. I can't. I have responsibilities. People depend on me. She paused, the weight of those words settling heavily in her chest. And I don't have the luxury of taking a break. For a moment, Elon's expression softened. He seemed to understand. You know, he said, leaning forward slightly, sometimes the weight of those responsibilities can make it feel like there's no way out. But the truth is, we all need a little help sometimes. Don't be afraid to ask for it. Jenna was taken aback by his words. Help. She had never thought about asking for help. She had always believed that if she didn't do everything herself, she would fail. I don't know what to say, she murmured. Elon smiled. You don't have to say anything. Just think about it. As Jenna stood to leave, she felt a strange sense of connection with the man sitting at the table. This wasn't the conversation she expected to have when she walked into work tonight, but it was one that would stay with her long after the night ended. I'll let you get back to your meal, she said, giving him a small smile. Thanks for the chat. Anytime, Elon replied, his tone warm. Jenna walked away, her mind swirling with 1,000 thoughts. She had just shared a quiet moment with one of the most influential people in the world, and yet she couldn't help but feel like she had just spoken to someone who understood the struggles of being human. What would come next? She couldn't help but wonder. What would she do with the unexpected advice she had just received? The night was far from over, but for Jenna it had already become unforgettable. The next few days were a blur for Jenna. She couldn't stop thinking about her conversation with Elon Musk. It had been an unexpected, almost surreal moment, one that she hadn't fully processed at the time. She'd always thought of Elon as just a larger-than-life figure, a billionaire tech mogul who seemed to live in a world that was miles away from hers. But after that brief exchange, she found herself seeing him in a completely different light. In the days that followed, Jenna found herself replaying his words in her head. Sometimes the weight of those responsibilities can make it feel like there's no way out. But the truth is, we all need a little help sometimes. Don't be afraid to ask for it. For the first time in a long while, she considered the possibility of asking for help. The idea felt foreign, almost wrong. She had always been the one who had to manage everything, keep everything together. But there was something in Elon's tone that made her think, maybe she didn't have to carry everything on her shoulders alone. Still, that was easier said than done. Work had only gotten busier since Elon's visit. The restaurant was still buzzing with stories about the night he had dined there. People were in awe of how calm he had been, how down-to-earth despite his success. Jenna heard bits and pieces of conversations from customers, co-workers, and even the occasional celebrity who came in, all speculating about what Elon was up to. But she remained focused on her job. One afternoon, a few days later, Jenna was working her shift when a manager came up to her, a look of excitement on his face. Jenna, I've got some news, he said, pulling her aside. I need you to head to the back office right now. There's someone who wants to meet with you. Her heart skipped a beat. Who could it be? There were no special guests on the roster for the day. She wondered if something had gone wrong or if they needed her for something urgent. Jenna followed the manager through the back hall to the office, her mind racing. She had no idea what was going on. As soon as she stepped through the door, she froze. Sitting at the desk was none other than Elon Musk. "Hi, Jenna," Elon said with a smile, looking up from a folder. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." Jenna was speechless. Was this a dream? Had he come back to the restaurant just to speak with her again? "No, not at all," she finally managed to say, her voice barely a whisper. What's going on?" Elon stood and gestured for her to sit. "I wanted to talk to you about something important," he said, his expression calm but serious. "After our conversation the other night, I've been thinking about your situation. The challenges you mentioned, your family, your job, everything you're juggling. I wanted to see if I could help." Jenna felt her stomach twist. Help? What was he talking about? She hadn't expected this at all. I don't know how you could help me," she stammered, her mind struggling to keep up with what was happening. Elon leaned forward slightly, his tone measured. "I've been in situations where I've had to make tough choices too, and I get the feeling you're at a crossroads in your life. It's clear you're dedicated to your family and your work, but at what cost to you? There's no easy answer to these things, but sometimes it takes a shift, an opportunity to make things a little easier." Jenna's heart was pounding now and her palms began to sweat. She had no idea where this conversation was headed, but something told her it wasn't going to be anything like she expected. "Look, I'm not here to offer some sort of handout," Elon continued, his voice softening. "But what if there was a way to lighten your load, to give you the chance to breathe a little? I think you're capable of so much more than what you're currently doing, and I want to offer you an opportunity, something that could change things for you." Jenna's mind raced. What could he mean? She had heard about people like Elon making big offers to talented individuals, but she never thought it would happen to her. She was just a waitress, trying to get by. "What kind of opportunity?" she asked, her voice tentative, unsure if she even wanted to hear the answer. Elon smiled, clearly anticipating her question. "I'm putting together a new initiative that I think you could be a part of. It's something different from anything you've ever done. Something that will use your skills in a way that you might not have thought possible. And I'll be honest, it won't be easy. But I believe you have the resilience to handle it." Jenna's mind was whirling. She had no idea what Elon was talking about, but the offer was impossible to ignore. I don't know if I'm ready for something like that," she said, shaking her head slowly. "I've always worked in restaurants. I'm not sure what I could do in something bigger." Elon leaned back in his chair, clearly unfazed. "I think you'd be surprised. You've got a level of determination and resourcefulness that most people don't have. But it's up to you. I just want to give you the choice." Jenna sat in stunned silence. The idea of stepping into something completely different, something unknown, was both thrilling and terrifying. But could she really do it? Could she leave behind everything she knew and step into a world that seemed light years away from her current reality? Elon stood, sensing her hesitation. "I'm not going to pressure you into anything. Take some time to think about it, but just know that the opportunity is there." Jenna felt like her world was shifting beneath her feet. She didn't know what to say or do, but she knew one thing for sure. She was facing a choice that could change everything. "I thank you," she finally said, her voice trembling. "I'll think about it, I promise." Elon smiled and gave a reassuring nod. "Take your time, and whatever you decide, I'm rooting for you." As he walked out of the office, Jenna sat there, her thoughts racing. She was just a waitress. But maybe, just maybe, the universe had just handed her an opportunity that could change her life forever. But was she ready to take it? The days following Elon's visit to the restaurant felt like a whirlwind for Jenna. Her mind was consumed by the conversation they had, replaying every word he had said. The offer he had made, the opportunity to step into something bigger, something unknown, was still sitting heavily in her thoughts. On one hand, the idea of breaking free from her routine and exploring a completely new world was thrilling. But on the other hand, it was terrifying. The comfort of familiarity, no matter how difficult, was hard to shake. She found herself talking about it constantly, to her mother when she called, to her friends when they texted her. But the more she discussed it, the more she realized that no one could make this decision for her. This was something she had to figure out on her own. The pressure was overwhelming. Every night after her shift, she would lie in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if this was her chance to turn things around, or if it was just a crazy risk that could ruin everything. But every time she thought about it, she kept coming back to the same question. What would she be giving up if she stayed in her current life? Jenna's life wasn't terrible. She had her family, her friends, and a job that paid the bills, though just barely. But it wasn't enough. She was barely scraping by, working long hours to make ends meet. Her dreams were always just out of reach, clouded by the reality of the struggle to get by. She didn't have the time, the energy, or the resources to do anything beyond the basics. And then, Elon had come along offering her a glimpse of something different, something bigger. She had never considered herself a person who could take such a leap. But the fact that Elon had seen something in her, something worth investing in, made her start to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could rise to the challenge. But it wasn't an easy decision. Jenna was torn. The fear of failure, of leaving behind the only life she had known, loomed large. She had always been the one people depended on. Her mother, her friends, her co-workers, and the idea of stepping away from that felt selfish, even reckless. On a rainy afternoon, 2 days after her conversation with Elon, Jenna found herself sitting alone at a small coffee shop, staring blankly at the cup in front of her. She was supposed to meet a friend, but her mind was elsewhere, occupied with thoughts of the decision she had yet to make. "Hey, you're looking a little lost in thought," a voice broke through her haze, pulling her out of her reverie. Jenna looked up to see her best friend, Sarah, standing in front of her, a wide grin on her face. She hadn't even noticed Sarah walk in. Jenna smiled weakly and gestured to the empty seat across from her. "Sorry, I've just got a lot on my mind," Jenna said, her voice quiet. Sarah sat down, her eyes immediately narrowing in concern. "What's going on? You've been so quiet lately. I can tell something's eating at you." Jenna sighed and rubbed her temples. It's this offer I got, from Elon Musk." Sarah raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Wait, what? Elon Musk? You're telling me the Elon Musk came into the restaurant and offered you a job?" Jenna nodded slowly, her hands trembling slightly as she spoke. "Yeah. He said he thought I had potential, and that there was an opportunity I might be a good fit for. But I don't know what to do. I've never done anything like this before, and it's all so overwhelming." Sarah's eyes widened. "Jenna, that's huge. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You can't just let it slip away. Think about it. You've been working so hard just to get by, and now you have a chance to do something that could change everything." "I know," Jenna said, her voice shaky, "but I'm scared, Sarah. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if I leave everything behind and then realize I made the wrong choice?" Sarah took a deep breath, leaning forward slightly. "Okay, I get it. It's scary. But listen, do you want to live your life wondering what if? Because right now, you're in a rut. You're working your ass off, but you're not moving forward. You're stuck. This could be your way out." Jenna shook her head, unsure. "But I've got responsibilities, Sarah. My mom, my bills, the job. I can't just walk away from all of that. What if this opportunity doesn't work out? I'd be back at square one, but with even less to show for it." "I get it. You have a lot of things to balance. But have you thought about it this way?" Sarah leaned in, her voice becoming more serious. "Sometimes you have to take risks to move forward. Staying where you are, stuck in the same place, is just as risky in the long run. You've been living in survival mode for so long. Maybe it's time to give yourself a chance to thrive." Jenna stared at her friend, her mind racing. She had never thought of it that way. Sarah was right. She had been stuck, barely scraping by, never really moving forward. But what if taking this risk could finally get her out of that cycle? What if it was the chance she needed to change her life for the better? Her thoughts were interrupted when Sarah reached across the table, placing a hand over hers. "Jenna, whatever you decide, I'm here for you. But don't let fear hold you back from something amazing. You've got so much potential." The sincerity in Sarah's voice hit Jenna hard. She had always been the one to put others first. her family, her friends, even her job. But what about her? What about her dreams, her potential? Wasn't it time to take a chance on herself? The decision still felt daunting, but Jenna knew she couldn't put it off forever. She had to choose, stay in the life she knew or take a risk and step into the unknown. As the rain pattered against the window outside, Jenna felt the weight of her decision pressing down on her, but she also felt something else. Hope. Maybe. Just maybe. She was ready to step into something bigger. She wasn't sure yet, but she was beginning to think that perhaps this was the beginning of something incredible. And for the first time in a long while, Jenna felt the spark of possibility. The week dragged on. Jenna's mind was a constant whirlwind of doubts, what-ifs, and an overwhelming sense of anticipation. She had spent the past few days talking to friends, her mom, and even some of her co-workers, each conversation offering a different perspective, but no clear answer. Sarah had been right about one thing. Jenna had been living her life on autopilot for so long, stuck in a cycle that barely allowed her to dream, let alone act on those dreams. But was she ready to make a change? She kept telling herself that if this was a real opportunity, it wouldn't have fallen into her lap so easily. It was too much of a risk, wasn't it? But then in the quiet moments of the day, when she wasn't busy at work or caught up in the daily hustle, she found herself imagining a different life. A life where she wasn't just getting by, but thriving. By Friday afternoon, the decision weighed heavily on her. Jenna was preparing to clock out after her shift when her phone buzzed in her pocket. She took it out to find a text from Elon Musk himself. "Hi, Jenna. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to follow up with you about the opportunity I mentioned. Let me know if you're ready to discuss further. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Best, Elon." Her heart skipped a beat. There it was again. The offer, the possibility of a new life staring her in the face. As the day drew to a close, Jenna found herself at the same coffee shop where she had met Sarah just a few days before. This time she sat alone, a steaming cup of coffee in front of her, but her thoughts were far away. She had no idea what she was going to do. Her phone buzzed again. This time a call from her mom. "Hey, honey, how's work going?" her mom asked, her voice warm and familiar, as it always was. "Fine, just another day," Jenna replied with a small smile. Her mom was always there to listen, always ready with a word of encouragement. But Jenna knew she couldn't talk about the decision just yet. She wasn't sure what she was going to do. Her mom must have sensed the hesitation in her voice. "You sound like you're thinking about something serious. Is everything okay?" Jenna hesitated. She took a deep breath before finally speaking. Well, it's about that opportunity with Elon Musk. He wants to bring me into something, but I don't know if I'm ready for it, Mom." There was a pause on the other end of the line before her mom spoke again. "Jenna, sweetheart, I've always told you that you're capable of more than you think. I know you've had your share of struggles, but I've seen how hard you work, how much you care. If this is a chance for you to do something better, to grow, then you have to take it. I know, but I'm scared. What if I fail? What if I walk away from everything and it doesn't work out?" Her mom's voice softened. "Failure isn't the end. It's just part of the journey. You've always been able to find your way, even when things were tough. I believe in you, Jenna. You don't have to do it alone, and I'll always be here no matter what you decide." Those words, "I believe in you," rang in her ears long after the call ended. Jenna sat in the quiet coffee shop, her heart beating a little faster, her mind clearer than it had been in days. Maybe, just maybe, this was the push she needed. This was the chance to stop living in fear, to stop living for everyone else's expectations and start living for herself. She checked her watch and then her phone. Elon's message was still sitting there waiting for her response. Jenna quickly typed a reply. "Hi Elon, thank you for following up. I'm interested in learning more about the opportunity you mentioned. Could we set up a time to talk?" "Within moments," Elon responded with a time that worked for both of them. It was set. They would talk on Monday. The rest of the weekend flew by in a blur of preparation. Jenna couldn't shake the feeling of nervous excitement that had taken over her. She researched everything she could about Elon's ventures, trying to wrap her head around what kind of opportunity he might be offering her. Still, Nothing was concrete. It felt surreal, like a dream she could wake up from at any moment. When Monday finally arrived, Jenna was a bundle of nerves. She paced around her apartment, going over what she would say, how she would present herself. This was her chance to prove she could do something more, something bigger than she ever thought possible. The moment came and she answered the call. "Hi, Jenna, I'm glad you're able to chat." Elon's voice came through, calm and reassuring as always. "How are you?" "I'm doing okay, just trying to wrap my head around everything," Jenna replied, a nervous laugh escaping her lips. "That's understandable," Elon said, his tone warm. "This is a big step, and I want to make sure you're comfortable with the idea before we go any further. So let me explain a bit more about the project I'm working on. Here's something new, something that will challenge you in ways you've never been challenged before. But I think you've got what it takes." Jenna sat up straighter, her nerves shifting into a sense of anticipation. She was ready to listen. This opportunity is part of a new initiative to create sustainable food businesses that not only serve great food, but also focus on reducing waste, lowering environmental impact, and supporting communities. I'm putting together a team of people who are not just skilled but who are passionate about making a real difference. I believe you could be a perfect fit for this team. Jenna's heart raced. Sustainable food, a new initiative. This was beyond anything she had ever imagined. This wasn't just another restaurant job. This was something that could change the world. "You're serious?" Jenna asked, barely able to believe it. "I mean, you really think I could be a part of that?" "I do," Elon replied with confidence. "I see a lot of potential in you, Jenna. This could be a chance for you to not only grow, but to help others do the same." For the first time in what felt like forever, Jenna felt the weight in her chest lift. She could see it now, the vision, the potential. She wasn't just being offered a job, she was being offered a chance to change the world and maybe even herself along the way. She took a deep breath and smiled. "Okay, Elon, I'm in. Let's do this." Elon's voice crackled with approval. "I'm glad to hear that, Jenna. We'll get started right away." As she hung up the phone, Jenna leaned back in her chair, a mix of excitement and nerves rushing through her. She had made her decision. She was stepping into the unknown, but for the first time in a long while, Jenna felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be, and she was ready for whatever came next. Jenna woke up early, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Today was the first day of her new life, or at least the beginning of it. She had made the decision to dive into the unknown, to leave her old life behind, and embrace an opportunity that could change everything. The excitement coursing through her veins was undeniable, but so was the fear. She had spent the past few days packing up her apartment, sorting through belongings she didn't need, and cleaning out her space. She hadn't told many people about the change, just a few close friends and family members, but even they were a bit surprised by her decision. But Jenna didn't care anymore. She wasn't going to let fear of judgment hold her back. This was her chance, and she was going to take it. Her phone buzzed as she was getting dressed. It was a text from Elon. "Good morning, Jenna. I hope you're ready for today. We'll be meeting at 9 a.m. at the new headquarters. I'll give you the full tour and introduce you to the team. Exciting times ahead." She read the message twice, a sense of calm washing over her. She was about to enter a new world. She took a deep breath and pushed aside the lingering doubts. Today was the beginning of something incredible. She arrived at the new headquarters at exactly 9 a.m., her heart pounding in her chest as she stood outside the modern, sleek building. The exterior was all glass and steel, gleaming under the morning sun. It looked nothing like the small, cozy restaurant where she had spent the last few years working. This place was the embodiment of the future, futuristic and forward-thinking. Taking one final deep breath, she walked through the front doors. The inside was just as impressive as the outside. Open spaces, high ceilings, and sleek designs everywhere. The first thing that struck her was the sense of innovation in the air. It felt like the type of place where groundbreaking ideas were born. Elon was standing near the front desk, waiting for her. As she approached, he gave her a warm smile and a firm handshake. "Good to see you, Jenna. I'm glad you're here." "Welcome to the team." Jenna felt a rush of gratitude as she shook his hand. She couldn't believe this was real. "Thank you for this opportunity, Elon. I'm really excited to be here." "Let's get started then," Elon said with a smile. He led her through the building, giving her a tour. Jenna marveled at everything: the state-of-the-art kitchen, the brainstorming rooms where ideas flowed freely, and the sleek conference rooms where the team would gather to collaborate on future projects. It was a far cry from the tiny, cramped kitchen she had worked in just a few days ago. After the tour, Elon introduced her to the team. There were people from all walks of life: chefs, designers, environmentalists, and tech innovators, all brought together by a shared passion for sustainability and innovation. Jenna was struck by how passionate and driven everyone seemed. She felt a little out of her depth at first, unsure of where she fit in. But then Elon turned to her and said, "Jenna's going to be leading our kitchen team. She's got the skills, the vision, and the heart for this project. I'm excited to see what she can do here." Jenna's stomach did a flip at the mention of leadership. Me? She had never thought of herself as a leader, not in this way. But something about Elon's faith in her made her want to rise to the occasion. As the day wore on, Jenna found herself getting more comfortable. She shadowed the kitchen staff, observing their methods and asking questions. She learned about the sustainable practices they were implementing, the technology they were using to reduce waste, and the creative ways they were sourcing ingredients. It was all so different from what she had known, but in the best possible way. After a few hours, Elon sat down with her to discuss her role in more detail. "I think you'll be a great addition to the team, Jenna. Your experience in the restaurant industry, your understanding of quality food, those are all invaluable skills. But we need someone who can bring that knowledge to a larger scale, someone who can think outside the box and make this project truly groundbreaking." Jenna nodded, absorbing everything he said. She wasn't sure she had all the answers yet, but she was ready to learn. She was ready to make her mark. "Is there anything I should know about the direction you want us to take?" she asked. Elon smiled. "We're not just looking to open a restaurant. This is about creating a new paradigm in the food industry, a place where people can eat delicious meals without compromising on sustainability, a place where we use technology to make the world better while serving food that people will love." Jenna felt a surge of inspiration. This was bigger than just food. This was a movement. As the day came to a close, Jenna stood outside the building, staring up at the towering structure. The weight of everything that had happened in the past few days was finally starting to sink in. She had taken a risk, stepped into the unknown, and it felt right. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew that this was where she needed to be. She pulled out her phone and shot a quick text to Sarah. "First day's over. I'm exhausted but excited. This is going to be big." Almost immediately, Sarah replied, "I knew it. I'm so proud of you. You've got this, Jenna. You're going to change the world." Jenna smiled to herself. Sarah's words were a reminder of why she had made this leap in the first place. It wasn't just for her. It was for the world she wanted to help create. A world where innovation, sustainability, and passion came together to change the way people experienced food. As Jenna made her way to her car, she knew one thing for sure. This was just the beginning. She had taken the first step toward something incredible, and no matter what challenges came her way, she was ready to face them head-on. The future was wide open, and for the first time in her life, Jenna felt like she could truly make a difference. The first few weeks flew by, and with each passing day, Jenna felt herself growing more into her new role. The fast-paced, high-stakes environment was both exhilarating and intimidating, but she was determined to rise to the challenge. Every day brought new opportunities, new learning experiences, and more responsibility. But the pressure was starting to mount. Jenna had quickly become a key figure in the kitchen. Her team, although initially skeptical of her leadership, was beginning to come around. She wasn't just another chef. She was a driving force behind their mission to transform the way people experienced food. Her creativity, her commitment to sustainability, and her ability to balance innovation with practicality had earned her the respect of the entire team. Still, as the days passed, the weight of her new role began to sink in. She was no longer just a worker behind the stove. She was responsible for an entire kitchen that would play a pivotal role in shaping the future of the restaurant. She had to ensure that every dish that left the kitchen was perfect, every detail meticulously attended to, and that the team was operating at peak efficiency. But there was one problem. The opening date for their flagship restaurant was fast approaching, and there were still so many details to finalize. The kitchen had to be ready, the menu had to be perfected, and the operations had to be flawless. It was a monumental task, and Jenna felt like the weight of it was all falling on her shoulders. One afternoon, as she was reviewing the inventory and the flow of the kitchen, Elon walked in, a familiar yet unsettling look on his face. "Hey, Jenna, how's everything?" "Going?" he asked, his tone warm but with an undercurrent of urgency. Jenna glanced up from the paperwork, her brow furrowing slightly. "It's going okay, but there's still so much to do. The menu isn't finalized yet, we're behind on some of the design elements in the kitchen, and I'm trying to keep the team motivated." "I know this is a lot of pressure," Elon said, sitting down across from her at the table, "but we're really counting on you. This has to be perfect." Jenna swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his words. The truth was, she didn't feel like she had all the answers. She was doing her best, but sometimes it didn't feel like it was enough. The stakes were so high, and there was so much riding on this project. What if she couldn't deliver? "I'm trying, Elon," she said, her voice betraying a hint of frustration. "But I don't know how much more I can take. It feels like we're getting closer, but there's always something else that needs fixing." Elon studied her for a moment, his expression softening. "Look, I know you're doing everything you can, but I need you to understand something. Perfection isn't what we're after. What we're building here is a chance to change how people think about food. That's bigger than just getting everything perfect. It's about innovation, passion, and doing things differently." Jenna nodded, taking in his words. It was true, she wasn't just trying to build a perfect restaurant. She was part of something much bigger. But the weight of it all still felt crushing. She wasn't sure how long she could keep pushing herself. Without burning out, Elon seemed to sense her unease. "I'm not saying this to pressure you, Jenna, but I need you to trust yourself. You've got everything you need to succeed. This is just the beginning, and sometimes the road to something big can be a little bumpy." Jenna appreciated his words, but they didn't fully erase the pressure she felt. "I know, but sometimes it feels like I'm failing, like I'm not good enough for this job. What if I'm not the right person for this?" Elon's gaze softened and he leaned forward. "You're exactly the right person, Jenna. Don't forget that. Everyone here believes in you, and more importantly, you need to believe in yourself. I wouldn't have asked you to take this on if I didn't think you could handle it." The confidence he placed in her was both reassuring and daunting, but it was the push Jenna needed. She couldn't afford to let doubt creep in. Not now. Not when everything she had worked for was within her reach. "I'll do my best," she said, her voice steady now. "I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Elon said with a smile. "That's why you're here. Now let's go see how we can get the rest of the team on board. We need everyone to be aligned if we're going to make this happen." As they walked to the kitchen together, Jenna felt a renewed sense of purpose. There was still a long road ahead, and she wasn't naive enough to think it would be smooth. There would be setbacks, there would be mistakes, but the key was how they responded to those challenges. The following week was a blur. The team had several intense brainstorming sessions, refining the menu and experimenting with new dishes. Jenna worked tirelessly to ensure the kitchen flowed smoothly, making sure everything was prepped and ready for the grand opening. But despite her best efforts, things continued to fall behind. The design elements weren't coming together as quickly as they had hoped, and there were constant issues with supply chains and staffing. One afternoon, as Jenna stood in the kitchen, overseeing the preparations for a test run of the menu, she received an urgent call. She stepped outside to take it, her heart racing as she saw the caller ID. It was Sarah. "Jenna, I've been trying to get a hold of you," Sarah's voice crackled through the phone. "I just wanted to say, I know things are tough right now, but you're doing an incredible job. Don't let the pressure break you." Jenna paused, her breath catching in her throat. Sarah's words hit her harder than she expected. It was easy to get lost in the chaos, to forget why she had made this leap in the first place. "I'm trying," Jenna said softly, "but it's harder than I thought. I'm starting to wonder if I'm really cut out for this." Sarah's voice softened. "Jenna, you've always been strong, and this is just another challenge you'll conquer. Look, it's not going to be easy, but you've got something that no one else has, a heart that wants to make a difference. Keep going. You're almost there." Jenna's eyes closed for a moment, taking in Sarah's words. She knew her friend was right. The road wasn't meant to be easy, but that didn't mean she wasn't capable of walking it. She had come this far and she couldn't give up now. Taking a deep breath, Jenna returned to the kitchen. She was ready to face the challenge no matter how tough it got. And with every challenge, she would grow stronger. The opening was just around the corner, and the time for doubt had passed. Now it was time to show the world what they were capable of. The day of the grand opening arrived, and Jenna stood in front of the gleaming glass doors of the restaurant, her heart pounding in her chest. The sleek modern building shimmered under the bright lights, a beacon of innovation and progress. The guests were arriving soon, and everything had to be perfect. The pressure that had been building for weeks was at its peak, and Jenna could feel the weight of it on her shoulders. She glanced around the kitchen, the heart of the operation. The staff was moving with practiced precision, each person contributing to the flow of the meal preparation. Every dish had been perfected, every ingredient sourced with care. Jenna had overseen every detail, from the kitchen layout to the menu, ensuring that everything was in place. But despite the preparation, doubt still lingered in the back of her mind. What if it wasn't enough? What if they didn't meet expectations? Her thoughts were interrupted as Elon walked into the kitchen, his presence calm but commanding. He gave her a nod of approval, a smile on his face. "Ready for this?" Jenna nodded, though her stomach churned with nerves. "I think so. I just hope everything goes smoothly." Elon put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've put in the work. Trust yourself and trust your team. This is your moment." With a deep breath, Jenna watched as the first guests started to trickle in. The restaurant's sleek minimalist design stood in stark contrast to the warm, inviting atmosphere. The natural wood, soft lighting, and open kitchen concept created an ambiance of comfort and innovation. As the guests began to fill the tables, Jenna couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement mixed with nerves. She stepped into the dining area briefly, her eyes scanning the room. There were business executives, food critics, and influencers among the crowd, people who would determine whether this ambitious project would succeed or fail. She could hear murmurs of excitement, the clink of glasses, and the chatter of guests. The anticipation was palpable. "Everything looks amazing," Elon said as he joined her in the dining area, his eyes scanning the room as well. "Yeah," Jenna replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "It feels surreal." The evening began, and the kitchen was in full swing. Dishes were being plated with care, the team working in harmony to make sure everything was just right. Jenna's eyes flicked between the front-of-house staff and the kitchen, ensuring that everything ran smoothly. She wasn't just the head chef now. She was overseeing every aspect of the operation. The weight of that responsibility was not lost on her, but she was rising to the occasion. As the night went on, Jenna felt the tension in her chest slowly start to dissipate. The guests seemed to be enjoying their meals, and the team was working seamlessly together. The service was efficient, the food was met with rave reviews, and the entire restaurant seemed to be humming with success. There were moments when Jenna stole a glance at Elon, and he flashed her a knowing smile, a silent acknowledgement that they were on the right path. But even with everything seemingly falling into place, there was still a nagging worry in the back of her mind. The critics hadn't yet had their fill. Their opinions could make or break this venture. The stakes were too high to let her guard down just yet. It was only after the final round of orders were placed and the last plate was cleared away that Jenna was finally able to take a breath. The night had gone well, better than expected even, but the pressure still lingered. As the last guests left, Elon motioned for Jenna to come over. The team was gathering for a debrief, and Jenna joined them, her exhaustion finally starting to catch up with her. "Well, team, we did it," Elon said, his voice filled with pride. "We've officially launched something that's going to change the game, and it's all thanks to you, Jenna." Jenna's heart swelled with pride, but she couldn't help but feel a bit overwhelmed by the moment. It was the culmination of everything she had worked for, and it felt surreal. She had made it. They had made it. "You did amazing," Elon continued. "This is just the beginning. We've laid the foundation for something that's going to grow and evolve. And Jenna, your leadership has been crucial to that." Jenna felt the weight of the compliment. It had been a long road to get here, filled with doubt and uncertainty, but standing in that room with the team, she felt a sense of accomplishment that was hard to put into words. They had faced every obstacle together, and now they were here. The restaurant was open, and it was a success. As the team began to disperse for the night, Elon pulled Jenna aside. "I've been meaning to talk to you about the future," he said, his tone more serious now. Jenna's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "I've been thinking about what's next," Elon said, his eyes glinting with excitement. "This restaurant is just the start. We have the opportunity to expand, to create a movement, not just a restaurant chain. We could change the entire food industry, Jenna. You're the key to making that happen." Jenna was taken aback. She had just poured everything she had into this opening, and now the future seemed even bigger than she had ever imagined. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. This is already so much to handle." Elon smiled. "You're ready. You've already proven that. This is your chance to take everything to the next level. You don't have to do it alone. We have the resources, the team, and the vision. But we need someone with your passion, your drive to make it happen." Jenna's mind raced as she processed his words. It was a huge leap, one that could take everything she had just achieved and multiply it 100-fold. But was she ready? Was she willing to take on this next challenge? "Elon," Jenna said, her voice steady but full of emotion. "This is what I've always dreamed of. I didn't think it would happen this fast, but I'm in. Let's make this happen." Elon's eyes lit up with excitement. "I knew you'd say that." As Jenna walked out into the cool night air, her heart was full of anticipation for what lay ahead. The restaurant's grand opening had been a success, but it was only the beginning of something much bigger. She had taken a leap, and now she was ready to soar. This was just the start of the adventure, one that would not only change her life, but the future of the food industry itself. And with each challenge, she would continue to grow, evolve, and push the boundaries of what was possible. The world was watching, and Jenna was ready to show them exactly what she could do.